Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Event Tech Talk Show. I think we are on Ep07 now. Took a very short break. There's not been any episodes for a couple of weeks because me and the rest of the team were heavy into planning the final touch points and stages of our digital summit, which has just happened on June the 8th. I think we had over 1,000 attendees from companies like PwC, QuestX, Clarion, Deutsche Bank, Bloomberg, just to name a few. We had some amazing speakers on talking about trade shows, the future of trade shows, the future of engagement. We had a brilliant session by Julia Solaris, a session that we brought back from, I think it was Event Tech Live 2015, where the audience and attendees got to ask him any and all questions. So a really insightful session. All of that content is now available on demand, totally free of charge. So if you head over to eventtechlive.com, hit the summit menu item, you can register and access all of that content on demand. My special guest today is Jimmy MacDonald. Now, Jimmy founded the London Design Fair back in 2006, which hosts the largest collection of international exhibitors, designers, and brands during London Design Festival. He's also the founding director of Design Fair Asia, as well as a fellow of the Royal Society of Arts. And in 2018, he was listed as one of the Evening Standard and Citibank's 1,000 most influential Londoners, which I think just in itself is an amazing achievement. There's a lot of people in London. More recently, he was appointed as Global Fairs Liaison Director for a platform called Ribbon. Ribbon are a San Francisco-based e-commerce platform. So with his years of experience, Jimmy will take the lead in developing new revenue opportunities for trade shows at Ribbon. Jimmy, welcome to today's episode. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So who did you have to bribe to win top 1,000 most influential people in London? That's quite the achievement, mate.
Well, I'm quite. I know some of the editors at the Evening Standard, and they were being extraordinarily kind. And when I got the call up to attend the event, I thought it was just a million other events that I'm invited to. I didn't know I was going to be a recipient until I got there.
Oh, what a nice surprise! How cool is that?
It was very nice.
Really cool.
Very
That's
nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Before we get into the future of high-bird e-commerce, as we've been so eloquently put it, and trade shows and tech and platforms and everything that needs to happen in the industry, could you just give us a little background about, like, how did you get into events? What gave you like the initiative or the inspiration to start London Design Fair back in 2006? How did you get started?
So that was a really simple progression into trade fairs. I trained as a designer, so I am an interior designer. And my wife trained as a product designer. And neither of us wanted to do New Designers, which was the sort of official annual graduate fair. So we set up a little student show on Brick Lane. And we quickly realized, like, if we had a few more exhibitors, it might become a go-to show during the graduate season. So we very naively jumped in a car, drove to 10 universities in the UK, and persuaded all the students to join our show instead of New Designers. So we really had no idea we were getting into trade fairs. And that went very, very well. And the British Council invited us, myself and Rachel, to curate the British presentation during the big Milan Furniture Fair, which was an enormous win for us and got us loads of press. And then the big interiors trade fair of the day, 100% Design, invited us to bring the graduate emerging component to 100% Design. A year later, I proposed a joint venture with Reed Exhibitions to launch a fully blown, massive emerging designers show in East London, which was called Tent London. And then we ran that for about 4 years. before all the bigger brands wanted to start joining the show, but they weren't a fit. So we added on another show called Super Brands London to service the Italian egos, provided a platform for Italian brands. And then, over the years, everyone just introduced me as the guy who runs the London Design Fair. So eventually we just rebranded the whole package and called it the London Design Fair. And it did become, and it was the biggest fair during the London Design Festival. So that's how we got into it.
So just like everybody else, totally
Absolutely.
by accident, stumbled
into it.
Upon it. Yeah. The venue on Brick Lane, it didn't happen to be the old Truman Brewery by any chance?
Oh, yes. Yes.
See, all the best events are launched at the old Truman Brewery.
They really are. Well, the venue's interesting even when it's empty.
Yes.
Right.
Challenging and interesting, definitely.
Definitely challenging. I'm really looking forward to doing a massive show in a venue with no columns at some point.
Same for us this year. So we Event Tech Live started out at the Truman Brewery, and scarily now moving to XL.
Oh, good move.
Which comes with its own
the only venue in London, in my opinion. If you're planning to scale a show, that's where you take it.
Yeah, we're hoping to attract a much larger international audience. And the Truman Brewery is a beautiful venue, steeped in history, I think right in the centre of London. It's got so much to offer around it. But as your event grows, as I'm sure you felt those pains as well, it's something that you have to bend to its will. There's no shadow of doubt. Yeah. And if you're trying to scale up and make it a little bit more international and stuff, you have to go to one of the
exactly. And all the other venues have kind of shrunk or shape shifted, or they're just in the center of a residential neighborhood. It just doesn't work. XL is fit for purpose.
Absolutely. And even more plans to expand that site.
Yeah.
Jimmy, again, just before we move on to Ribbon and Tech, what was your biggest challenge, do you think, when growing a show from grassroots up to London Design Fair as one of those stake in the ground events through the year?
I think it was finding a team that understood the kind of vision for the show, that could really speak to the types of exhibitors we were looking for. I think a big turning point for us was when I started talking with trade organizations from various countries and packaging and putting together country pavilions. So we would work with a national curator that we really believed in a particular country. We would decide whether it was going to be a pavilion that targeted retailers or segmenting like what audience this particular cohort we're looking for. That was the game changer for us. We ended up with 15 country pavilions and sort of a group of sort of 30 that would exhibit with us on rotation.
Okay, wow.
And it really did service the brands that participate in the country pavilions really, really well. And it kind of made sense of a large show. But speaking to the problems, obviously, when you want to scale, you need more capital, and finding shareholders that appreciate your vision for the show as well. I was extremely lucky. I had two amazing investors.
Yeah. I think that's so true. I think the events industry, as I see it, is extremely entrepreneurial. The events come out of passions about and people that lead those passions in terms of what the real value is of that event to the people that they see in their community, or what's required of that community.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, let's be honest about it. Big events, trade shows, you're selling square meters and space.
Yeah.
But you're actually selling so much more than just that space. You're selling the ability to be a part of something, a bigger thing, to brand advocacy. And I think that you're right. you really have to have a team that also feel a part of that and have and align with your vision and really understand what the goal is for that, rather than just let's get as many people in a room as possible for a couple of days in London.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, you're creating an ecosystem, aren't you?
Mm.
You know, it's not creating a fair, it's creating an ecosystem, whether that be online or offline.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what brings you to a tech platform? let's before we jump into that question.
Yeah.
Let's tell me what Ribbon, or tell for those that are listening what Ribbon is.
Well, I'll tell you how I found Ribbon, because that kind of explains the platform. So for the last couple of years since I sold the London Design Fair, I've been consulting to big exhibition groups, including like Fiera Milano and DMG and other massive exhibition groups. And we, you know, I set up and I've launched a show into Singapore in the last year from London. And one of the things that I thought was essential was what kind of digital platform the show was going to have, right? So you're launching a show, you have this sort of pre-pandemic shows, which are like, you know, their tech platforms weren't advanced at all, mostly like a kind of jumped up version of an Excel file as an exhibitor list, right? Then there was the massive scramble during the COVID period for virtual everything, and finding virtual solutions quite tricky for interior shows where it's very much touch and feel type industry.
Yeah.
And I was looking for what I thought was the sort of neo-pandemic solution, which was a full-blown e-commerce platform for trade fairs that enhanced the face-to-face proposition, right? It was adding more. It wasn't replacing an element in the same way that virtual was like trying to replicate a show.
Yeah.
So I see e-commerce and marketplaces as an essential ingredient for the next gen of trade fairs, whether that's be, you know, from new shows or for existing shows. The next gen shows need to have an e-commerce solution as part of the offering. So I think, it was very much about, you know, what ecosystem ingredients were required to like square the circle. So a very good friend of mine in New York runs a show called Shop Object. I went on his site one day and I saw like a marketplace. And I was like, this is the one, you know. So I contacted Jesse, who runs the show. And I said, Jesse, like, you know, your e-commerce platform can I have a white label of that, please? You know, it looks, it did everything that I was looking for. So it was going to be the platform I was going to start recommending to my partners. And then Jesse said, well, you know, it's not mine. There's a service provider involved. And that was when I first met Ribbon. So what I loved about it was that it in the first instance, it just takes a boring exhibitor list and turns it into a marketplace with vendors, right? So your exhibitors are the vendors. And what I really liked about it in particular was that it linked the visitors register through the Ribbon platform on the trade fair's website. They get a QR code. The exhibitors also get a QR code. So it also replaces the clunky visitor registration system, right? So one profile journeys with you through your physical experience and your e-commerce experience. You're not having to log into loads of different platforms, one to get into the show, one to go to a talks at the show, another one to join a podcast at the show, another one to access the e-commerce platform. It's one profile. So an exhibitor is one profile, a visitor is one profile. And when the visitors are walking around the show, they can use the camera on their phone. So no need to download an app. to zap exhibitors' QR codes. It adds it to favorites on your own profile. If you stop at the cafe during your walk around of the show, you can go in and you can see the exhibitor's products. You can add them to your cart and you can buy them all the way through. So there's no sort of inquiry and hope to get a reply in 3 weeks functionality. It's immediate. And it just completes the whole visitor journey, and from an exhibitor point of view, you might show 20 objects on your stand, but you might have an inventory of 200 products. Where do you show those, right? So with the e-commerce platform that Ribbon provides, exhibitors can just take their CSV file of their inventory, one click upload, and it populates their store. It's just combined.
There's so much in there that I want to pick.
Go on,
pick
please.
apart. I think first of all, I love the fact that you were looking for something and there was a platform there, because to be quite honest, there's a lot of technology that's come into the marketplace, and for somebody to have experienced and delivered events, to be in a position to look for a product and want to work with that company, I think that speaks a lot to what Ribbon are doing.
Yeah.
I think the simplicity of that process it's very low friction, isn't it? Lots of technology.
Super low friction.
Yeah. Lots of.
I go insane when I receive a VIP invite for an event and a different invite to just get into the show. And because I haven't turned up on the VIP moment, I can't use it to get into the show. It's just boggling that it's so complicated.
I weirdly went to an in-person event and had to log up and sign up to a platform that wasn't even being used for the event to access something that was actually on at the event. Like the session, my mind just went, why are we still here? But yeah, everybody carries a phone around with them, don't they? They don't need teaching how to use that phone to open the camera app, which everybody uses pretty much on a daily
COVID
basis.
solved that problem for us, didn't it? Right. So even my 86-year-old mother knows how to zap a QR code.
And isn't it funny? QR codes are relatively old technology, but they still have a place and they can still be used to amplify the power of a platform like Ribbon and to be that access point. I think that's super cool. I think one of the other things there, Jimmy, that really sings to me, and maybe the other exhibition organizers out there that are listening to this are gonna kill me, but maybe this is where Ribbon comes in, is that the focus has been very much on sell as many square meters and grow the show as large as possible, isn't it? That in itself is the trade show model. Yeah. However, that doesn't always work. I've been to Farnborough International Air Show and they're bringing big engines in and things like that. They take up lots of space. And I think what strikes me straight away is that Ribbon somewhat has the answer to that sustainability question of how sustainable is it to just build bigger and bigger and bigger stages or platforms, how to ship products in, to bring them in. And I'm sure there's a commercial model behind Ribbon for the organizer, which I'll love to get onto.
Yes.
But maybe that balances that, rather than it's just about selling more space. It's about actually a 365-day campaign. It's about how you drive more value into that customer, how it all fits together, and doesn't necessarily mean that we have to continually build large shows or just sell more space in order to increase the turnover of those shows.
Yeah.
But it's more, there's more to it.
Well, actually, there's a couple of bits on there. So the analytics dashboard for both the exhibitor and the organizer are super advanced. So the organizer, for the first time, can see which visitors liked which stands at the show, right? So we never really know that. We guess and we think we know because someone's popular or someone's not. But for the first time, the analytics tell you which stands are of interest to your visitors. I mean, that's 0.101, right? But there's never been a way to do that. There's never really been a way to do that. And certainly not as part of a complete system. right? So there has been QR codes on stands before. That's not new. What is new is the analytics and the linking through to sales. You also don't have to guess who your VIPs are anymore. You can see their transaction values, right?
Interesting. Yeah, very good point.
So that's very important. You can see how the show is doing year on year in terms of generating actual sales. If a type of exhibitor isn't appealing to your audience, you can swap them out if you have a waiting list. There's lots that you can do with the analytics that I would have loved to have known about when I was directly running the London Design Fair. I would love that. And then from the exhibitor perspective, they can be invited by a visitor to join a Zoom call through the system. So they don't have to go to yet another platform or a calendar or whatever. They can just book an interaction. That could be a call, or it could be a live a video. There's lots of ways they can connect, and the exhibitors can decide whether they want only trade buyers. So they can set minimum order numbers per products, which immediately turns into a trade-only platform.
Yeah.
Or they can say, well, I don't care who buys this, so I'll just put the product as available as a single unit at a higher price. So you can really play with the profiles. But I think the beauty for the exhibitors, because we know, and I definitely know, that brands sell across many, many different channels now, the ability to kind of seamlessly take your CSV down from your own site and then just drop it in totally updated, a download and an upload. That's great for product management. It's like inventory management. So I really love it. I see the power of what it can do for a fair.
I can as well. I'm just thinking about things like the growth of direct-to-consumer brands, Gymshark, in apparel, others that, MyProtein, these brands that have been born out of, a warehouse and then a manufacturing facility and selling online direct-to-consumers.
Yeah.
This seems to me that this would be so in their comfort zone of we're going to an event, we understand there's an audience there for it, but we don't want to be able to just sell what's there. We want to be able to sell wholesale and trade and things like that, and then taking those orders. And then just second to that, I mean, this must be a rebookers and sales team's dream on a show. I mean, there's none of those. Oh, it's been okay. We're not quite sure. We'll have to see what it's like when we go back. It's like, no, you've done 10 million worth of sales. Oh, you've been here for the last 2 days.
Well, one of the shows in the US that we service, they do 6.4 million through the platform.
Wow.
I mean, so it works. When I saw that kind of closed the deal on joining Ribbon, because I could see it actually worked, because there's lots of platforms. But when you see those types of figures going through a platform for a trade fair, that's an interiors fair, it's working, and then you can see, as an organizer, you can see what sales were like year on year. You can compare. You can also see where sales peaked because you sent out a newsletter to market some of your exhibitors. And then if you see a little uptick in sales on the platform, your marketing's working. There's so many things it feeds into.
With the element of Ribbon being that marketplace for an organizer while the show's not on. And I've had this argument for years coming from the media and publishing side is, when your customer's not at your show, they're going somewhere else. Where are they going to keep updated with the industry? Where are they shopping? Where are they researching? Things like that. Does the Ribbon platform help the organizer overcome those challenges of attracting that existing customer base and audience back to the show website, back to the marketplace, and possibly even try and find new audience for them? Does the Ribbon platform help there at all?
It does. So I think if I'm answering your question correctly, I mean, if an exhibitor launches a new collection in February, but the show was in September and the next one is next September.
Yeah.
If that goes out in a newsletter, you're genuinely bringing new content to your existing audience. So it keeps them coming back looking for new content, right? So, and if they have brands that they've favored before, they'll get a poke if that brand adds new product, right? So it really improves the engagement level. I mean, some fairs, we run to seasons.
Sure.
So what we tend to do is, at the moment, a lot of shows want the platform to be live for maybe only 3 months. So a month before and 2 months after. Each of the fairs have asked for that in the initial stage, have extended it to 6 months immediately after the show. So we know it works, and we know, and you know, there's some users of the platform that are they get it. They know what they can do with it now because they're like 2 seasons in, and they're learning how to best use it because all the functionality is there, you know. So I think it's brilliant from that perspective. You know, like Swedish brands, for example, in interiors at least, will launch most of their products at their own Stockholm Furniture Fair because it's the main fair in Scandinavia. So lots of their launches are then, and they're not waiting until the London Design Fair to launch. So we can put out that content immediately after February to say this is coming to the fair in September, but you can also buy it now, way before you even arrive at the fair.
So like a pre-release then.
Yeah, it's super compelling, you know.
One of the things that I know scares many organizers when it comes to technology is the platform looked good. We love the idea of the technology. Some challenges around it, getting, you know, upper management, other people's buy-in to invest in that. Part of it also might be actual bandwidth to implement these technologies correctly. We all know the pressures that event teams are under to deliver the next event, market the next event, get the next event sold, that kind of stuff. What's the learning curve for something like Ribbon?
Right. So one of the questions that we get quite often is, could this potentially cannibalize a show? Right. So the online, everyone wants to be online, but they don't want to do the show. Well, in the first instance, the organizer can set whether it's for current exhibitors only, previous exhibitors, or exhibitors they're trying to sell a stand to in the future. So that's completely within the organizer's control. If you want to go completely safe, you can just say it's only for current exhibitors. So if you haven't signed up and paid for your square meters, you're not getting onto the platform, right? Then I find lapsed exhibitors quite an interesting topic. There's some exhibitors that are just never going to come back. They do a show, they set up a showroom in London, they've spent £4 million on a showroom, they don't see the need to do a fair anymore, but they might still want access to the audience. So you could pay them a premium to be on the platform because they're not also paying for real estate in the trade fair. So there's lots you can do with lapsed exhibitors, you know, and some, like a lot of the designers at the London Design Fair, they became super famous. They design for other brands. They don't need to do a trade fair anymore, but they do want some kind of brand awareness, right? So it's interesting from that perspective. I've worked with a lot of big organizing groups like Fiera Milano, DMG, and people like that, and I know it's tricky for them to move on this. It can be, even if they like it, as you said. So what I've been doing is I've been looking at portfolios of exhibitions, because sometimes there's like a massive hidden opportunity as well. So if you had 4 fairs that are at different times a year, but they're all roughly in the interior space, Each of those shows could have its own e-commerce platform, provided by Ribbon, of course. um, but we were actually talking to a couple of organizers who want us to create a fifth platform that isn't connected with the show at all.
Interesting.
Where all the exhibitors from the other 4 shows can coexist on one new platform. So we're actually beginning to kind of work with them to create new businesses that aren't fairs, right? And it makes complete sense because the visitor crossover is quite often common. But if you're doing a bathroom show that's for architects, it's very different to doing an interior show for accessories. But there is some definite crossover, right? So this is something interesting that's emerged. And then we also have a scenario where some of the trade fairs organizers or venues, they run the registration system at the front door for the fairs that operate in their venue. So they're thinking, well, what service can we offer to the fairs that occupy our venues? So we're now also starting to talk to not only organizers, but fairgrounds. You know, what can they offer to their shows that can really like streamline the process? Because the registration system on a show, on an average show even, is 30, 40 grand to badge exhibitors. Well, that's a cost that just evaporates once you've set up your e-commerce marketplace. You get like literally 2 for 1. You know?
So you're consolidating on getting more use of tools, more insight, more technology, better customer retention and exhibitor and visitor satisfaction. Without really, you know, introducing any additional costs. Although, you know, it's just replaced, isn't it, by an existing cost center within.
Well, actually, I'll tell you how the cost structure works.
Do you know what? That would be brilliant, Jimmy, because one thing that the industry is kind of calling for at the moment is some transparency on clarity on costs.
Yes, absolutely. It's super simple. Ribbon charges the trade fair $150 a month per exhibitor.
Okay. Yeah.
For the exhibitor to have their store in the marketplace. And we charge a one-off $300 fee to onboard them to make sure their profile looks amazing. That's it. And so the organizer can put that in the exhibitor manual and offer it out to the exhibitors. They don't have to go for it. But we think they will, because we've priced it to make it super attractive. And then where the organizer can generate an additional revenue stream, which is what all the shows in the States do, is they mark up our package to the exhibitors. So instead of it costing $150 a month, they charge $300 or $450. And thereby creating a brand new revenue stream whilst also providing a better service to their exhibitors.
And I think those prices, that pricing is very fair. I love the fact that you do a white glove service of onboarding. I think that's one area that often we've all seen floor plans that are half filled with profile information, and you know, the customer service requests of I can't upload my video, I can't get this image to sit right, and all that kind of stuff. That to me is $300 very well spent.
It really is. It really is. And it also means that we don't put any pressure on the fair team. Right. So my team would not have been able to manage all of those problems. But with Ribbon, with the onboarding, you're not putting any burden on the fair team. So they can carry on selling square meters and they can carry on marketing the show, but with better tools.
Absolutely. Just on the actual cost per month, you know, I'm pretty sure most exhibitor will easily spend 10 times that on some form of other digital marketing, which is ultimately leading to sales for them, whether that be like social ads, email marketing, other additional things.
Hopefully.
Absolutely. Well, they should be if they're sophisticated enough. I also love, just going back slightly to the idea of those lapsed customers. They're no longer invested in the event physically. We've all seen it. We run events where those people are actually attending the event, so they're still spending time coming. They still see value in the audience, in the event itself, but maybe they're just not in a position to invest either the time or the money, or they're in a different place than they were before, where they can't make that on-site activation happen. I think this is for me almost a way for the trade show market and the event market, with events that are about products and consumers and things like that, protecting themselves or bringing back some value to maybe where they've lost it in other channels or other avenues. I'm going to use Amazon as the example. It's probably not the most, but that's an example of a player coming into the market, heavy on online, heavy on sales. And there's probably other places like Amazon that some of those retailers go to have that exposure and that sales channel.
That's right.
This is just another string to the bow for the organizer, right? It's another revenue stream. It's another value
and it's integrated into their own brand.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not somewhere else. You know, you're not sending your exhibitors, your valuable audience, to a temporary marketplace that you have on Artsy, for example, right? Which is like, we do service art fairs as well. So our three main verticals at the moment are design, as in interiors, apparel, fashion, and high-end art fairs. And we recently had a really good win in the States on an art fair, who had a separate e-commerce solution, separate registration, separate VIP system. And it took us about 10 minutes to convince them that wasn't a good idea, you know? But I think I really like the idea of looking at lapsed. And I think COVID has created many, many, many more lapsed exhibitors.
I think the other area to probably look at is, you know, if we looked at the inquiry pool of all those companies that have inquired about exhibited but never taken that initial step. I mean, we ourselves had that experience with Event Tech Live, funnily enough, when the pandemic hit and we produced a totally digital event. We actually saw a lot more international companies participate and invest in the event because it was frictionless for them. It was like, well, we can do this from anywhere. So I think that's also an area for organizers to go through. You know, okay, that lead is not going to convert into a physical presence this year, but actually we've generated X amount of $1,000 worth of revenue out of them because we've offered them a digital solution.
Exactly, and the digital solution has a much better margin. Right.
Absolutely.
So you're not paying for real estate, you're not lighting it, you're not carpeting it, you know. And what happens if you're a fair that currently has 1,000 exhibitors in China? Right. And suddenly 1,000 exhibitors can't turn up. You know, that's a big deal. You know, and I don't mean to be negative about it, but COVID is not gone, you know.
I think the thing that COVID taught us, Jimmy, as an industry, is that if you have all of your eggs in an event basket, you are susceptible to certain world economic things happening that can affect your bottom line. And I think many organizers are now very much more proactive in the fact that they need to add layers of service and supply and redundancy into their business so that they don't, or are not as affected in future should those things happen again, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And why wouldn't you want to move on to the next clear and obvious new revenue stream with trade fairs? Why wouldn't you? If it's your business, you need to evolve it continuously. You know, and virtual was nice, it was novel, but it's not a solution.
No, and I think we also sometimes, you know, everybody's focused on virtual. But when it comes to event technology and digitization of event businesses, there's so many more layers to that onion, right? Isn't there? Like, virtual and streaming content on online platforms to network is just 1% of it. There's so much more. And it's really nice to see companies like Ribbon really tackling, value add, but also overcoming, challenges of how do we service customers in the 11 months that they're not spending money with it potentially.
Exactly. And during COVID as well, more brands did find digital channels through which to sell their products.
Yeah.
Right. So, and everyone's super familiar now with buying online. Okay, whether it be a trade purchase or a consumer purchase, it's super commonplace. Everyone gets it. They know what to do. The mystery is gone. But I just think, also there's quite a few like emerging exhibitors at shows that don't have their own audience, right? So them having their own e-commerce platform sitting over here on the web with no one going near it, I could actually see in the future a time where their profile on the Ribbon platform for a show could be where they conduct all their business.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that easily. I could see that happening.
I think there's so many businesses that launch and want to do events, right? They want to get in front of customer and prospects, and they want to showcase their products, and they want to get that feedback as well. But often for new businesses, there's an element of risk to it, isn't it? Because of time and investment and things like that. And therefore the pressure is on to see that direct return from that event straight away.
Yeah.
And for me, what strikes me about Ribbon is that tool is there to support them to see that immediate return, to see that immediate pull through.
Yeah.
And make, almost de-risk an exhibition or trade show for new companies. Bigger companies, they can afford a blip or to not see necessarily sales for a few months out of event or something like that. But for new companies, that's often very much where they need that immediate return or quick return to see the ROI from an event.
And also, to lure brands back to shows, right? Yeah. It is an awesome tool for that. We now have a real digital solution that sits alongside the fair.
Yeah.
Whereas before, last time you called them, you were just selling them square meters saying, oh, don't worry, all the visitors are going to come back. Well, I had visitors from 37 countries to the London Design Fair. I can guarantee you they weren't all coming back to the show.
And what a great marketing opportunity as well to bring those people that do buy online or engage with the marketplace into the event in future, right? It's like
absolutely. I've been reading quite a lot about the sort of O2O.
Okay.
And it was interesting that I found the topic on Shopify, of all places. So they're like, okay, so we've really nailed this e-commerce thing. What's our next business plan? Let's bring it offline. So I found that really, really very interesting. And I'd actually love to talk to someone at Shopify about it, and see, well, actually, you're thinking retail, but how does that work with trade fairs?
Yeah. Well, maybe don't make them too aware of that.
No. Don't worry, we've cornered it already.
I'm sure. I don't know of many other people that are playing in the market on this side of things. Yes, there's companies helping with exhibitor manuals and the online ordering for exhibitors and things like that. But certainly from providing that e-commerce platform, it really does sound like you've got a fantastic product for people to look at. Before I ask the obvious question is, where do people go?
Yeah.
What might the future hold for Ribbon? Are there other areas that you feel that the platform or the team at Ribbon can develop the platform to help and support in other areas for organisers?
Well, in the first instance, we're looking at what's immediately in front of us, right? Mm-hmm. Which is like we can service actually any kind of trade fair where there's a product involved. That's a transactionable product involved. I haven't looked beyond that yet, but I'm very interested in the entire scene. But no, I haven't looked at that yet. Where I touched on something that I found interesting was the idea of creating new businesses for trade fair organizers that they hadn't yet thought of. So you got loads, some organizers have 400 shows. I would love to look into those portfolios and join some dots and create some e-commerce or marketplaces for those brands, and the ecosystems are strong, like we were also recently working with an art fair, and they have 8 art fairs across the world. And, their audience from their Hong Kong event might not come to their Cologne event. So immediately there's an opportunity there with the e-commerce. They actually started using webcams to walk around the show, guiding collectors in Hong Kong around a show in Germany.
Interesting.
On their profile. And then the tour guide was liking or favoriting or reserving the pieces for the collector.
Interesting.
That's pretty amazing.
The human avatar.
Yes.
The real world avatar.
We can create an art world metaverse,
Maybe that is also Ribbon's 3 virtual reality gallery for all those artists out there to
only for
sell
NFTs.
their NFTs through and
only
things
for
like
NFTs.
that. Only for NFTs. But only just recently bought my first NFT.
You did? What was it?
Dipped my toe into the water.
Yeah.
Do you know what? This sounds so basic in terms of utility. I just really wanted an NFT as a Twitter profile.
I see. Okay.
So I found an artist that I like, a gallery that I like. Interestingly, my first job was actually working in an art gallery.
Right. Okay.
Working with artists and original artists, and couples and individuals that would come in and want to either invest or just choose a piece for its beauty and things like that. So it's taken my wife 15 years to allow her to put a print up that's not a limited edition or by somebody known or something like that. She slowly worked me way down. But yeah, I just wanted a little bit of an expression of the type of art and things that I'm interested in, and that's why I bought it. And for no other reason. I don't care whether it makes money, loses money, stays exactly the same as it is. It doesn't matter to me. No. I just wanted that social expression of something that I was interested in, that I liked. And that seems to fit well into that. But yeah, NFTs are an interesting one in the events industry. They really
are. They really are. Yeah. I've been thinking about it quite a bit, actually. And I walk around art fairs and I think, that's an original piece of art. Where can I get the NFT for that? Right?
I think
who's going to store it? And then is the person storing it also going to be the marketplace for it? And suddenly it's just like, hold on, Jimmy, that's a whole other company.
I think it will move that way. I mean, personally, I think my heart would still be owning that first edition, that one and only of it. We're going way off topic here, Jimmy, but I've secretly got offcuts of an original piece by an artist that was bought for a lot of money by somebody, and I've got that little piece framed up in my house. The piece of a piece, and it's signed by the artist as well. So maybe one day it'll be worth a bit of money. But I think the digital side is the evolution of the limited edition run, right? It's there's 100 of these, and 100 people can own them, and maybe they'll go the Damien Hirst way, and you get the choice of the physical or the digital representation.
Or maybe you just get the NFT thrown in.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Although now I feel like we're all going to have LED screens on our walls all around the house to display these things.
No.
Jimmy, thank you very much for coming on. I think Ribbon's doing something really interesting in the market, and something I'm sure others listening to this will be interested in. So where can they reach out to you and find out more about Ribbon?
Well, a simple email is jimmy@meetribbon.com.
Perfect.
Or jump on meetribbon.com. There's like a 1-minute video that explains all. It's super simple.
Amazing. Thank you very much for coming on today. And for everybody that tuned in, either watching us or tuning in on Apple iTunes or Spotify or anything, if you like this episode, please share it. If you do speak to Jimmy, mention the podcast, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for having me.